Hello, Ansu here from Ivytree Studio, and our next class is all about upcycled art and art journaling as well. And so I was thinking of just combining a couple of things. So I selected a couple of products and I am using my created system, the Sunflower system, for just getting together a couple of prompts to guide me in my art making. And so just want to mention the different ways that you can use this system. Most artists need to have a couple of prompts. You can download loads on the internet, so why do you need the system? I think it's, for me as a Christian artist, the idea was to teach you how to incorporate God's word. So asking God to enter your art process with you, guiding you along. So starting with his word, always starting with a prayer and perhaps a word of wisdom from him, something that the Holy Spirit has been putting on your heart, putting that down. There's a couple of prompts that I felt like I wanted to tweak, because if I feel like I get the same prompts over and over again, I can change them around and select from the prompts that I have on my cards. And so tweaking it is fine. You can select. It's like picking things that you want to put together. You can compile your list. You can use the sequencing if you want to surprise yourself. You can pray over this. Remember, you have your prayer card that you can have handy, and asking God. I've already asked him to come in. This is the prayer on my heart. I wrote this, so it's a permanent thing that I hold out to him anyway, but I already asked him to guide me through in what's going on here and what I should teach you, but also what I want to do with this is to encourage you in the process of making more art and experimenting. So remember that in our workbook there's a whole section on being a naturalist, then going out into your studio with all the things that you've collected. So let's say my naturalist phase, you can see on the table I've collected lots of things that I want to try out, that I want to play with, and then I'm going to go into my studio. That's when I become the scientist. So today we're going to be scientists a little bit, and then in the end, after this process and you've learned things, that when you leave these cards behind, you say, well, I've learned now how to incorporate God's word, invite him in, pray over my art, bring music into the picture in the background, make sure that I look after myself while I'm forgetting about life in general and focusing on my art, that I have my water close by, that I have a little snack that I can snack on. It doesn't always have to be something sweet. I chose dark chocolate because that was the prompt on the list, but I tend to stay away from sweet stuff. It's not good for me. So you can have healthy snacks available to you and remind yourself, set a timer and remind yourself to get up after a couple of minutes and just stretch your legs, walk about a little bit, move around, exercise on the spot, dance, put a dance song on YouTube and dance a little bit. You can check out Leslie Sanson's walking videos. They are really great for you to just walk on the spot, and you can lose weight while doing art. So you don't have to be sedentary. I really want to recommend that. I struggle with my weight because of my thyroid, and so it's always on my mind to be careful with how I spend my time. I don't want to be a couch potato. So today we were out and about, and I got in my exercise by walking a lot, standing a lot, being active, moving around. And so tonight I can just relax. I've checked my box, I've moved, but I must still remember to move my legs, move my arms about, not sit for 3 hours at a time. So I'm going to stop the video so often and just do that and work that in. So I want you to also do that for yourself. That's a habit that you need to cultivate over time. Make sure that you look after your body and your mind, because if you don't, your art will also reflect that. Right, we don't want artists to fall into depression, and I think long hours sitting in a studio and you get too close to your art, you can't see the wood for the trees after a while anyway. So getting up, moving away from your art is also a trade of the a trick of the trade. So it gives you a new fresh perspective to bring in dimension from a different angle. When you get stuck in the artwork and you just leave it for a couple of minutes or a day or a week or longer, and you return to it, then you have a new perspective, something fresh that you can bring to your art. And so that's definitely an artist tip that I would suggest you take note of. All right, so Today we'll dig into what I have on my table, so let's get down to business. So as we're going to be a little bit messy today, I have my water bin next to me and all the usual things that I need. First, I'm going to talk to you about what I have on my desk before I clear everything off and get a clean surface for me to work on. Collecting recyclable materials is something that I would suggest you do over time, but also to allow you not to get overwhelmed by the things that you collect. Designate a bin and decide on a size and tell yourself that's your limit. So when it spills over, then it means that you either need to recycle it to a recycling plant, get rid of it, or you need to make more art with it and stick within that bin size. So I have a bin, quite a large bin, and I have another container for the current things that I work in, because I feel like a bin with a lid on doesn't give me access to what I want to work on. So the things that's current I will put on top that I know that I want to use soon. And then the things that I archive that I want to keep, it is a resource, I put in the bin with the lid on, and I make sure that it doesn't overspill. So I try to have that system going. All right. So I collected a couple of things over time, a long period of time, interesting things I want to share with you. So something that I can just start off with is not necessarily a recyclable item. It's just twine. Twine can add nice interest on any artwork. So I can suggest that it's not too expensive. So you get these in different widths. And the fact that it's kind of this crafty color, you can color it with your inks and things and change the color as well, or with paint. Right, I'm just going to put the lovely chocky to the side. I don't want to paint over that. Right then, okay, let me just grab these. I'm going to quickly talk about these elements. So this is from the Revive collection, and you can print any of the items on vellum. And if they're color or black and white, doesn't matter, but the black and white can form a stamp. So if you add it to your surface with gel medium, it becomes like a stamp. So instead of using the carbon method that I suggested to you earlier, remember I said that the carbon method and tracing your artwork would help your brain to learn how to do the curves and the drawing, and later on it will become a natural skill to want to draw it on your own. So you will start to develop those skills because you are teaching your brain and your hand and your eye how to do the face, where to put the lips, where to put the eyes, all the details and things. And so you will develop a style over time of your own by just tracing other artworks that you like. All right, that's one thing. But then if you want not to focus too much on the artwork, but rather on building dimension or other things in your experiment, and you just want a quick artwork there, then you can print it aligned artwork like this. This was just a part of the PDF, but you also get the artworks in a stamp, PNG stamp set, so you can stretch them any size you want or reduce them in size. You can print them on plain white cardstock. There are two different options. One of my club members says that she uses a laser printer, color laser printer, or just a laser printer to print on a paper, and it doesn't bleed as easily because it sets. I think it's toner and it sets. So I can suggest the laser printer option, or your local copy shop would definitely, or print shop would definitely go the laser or the digital printing method. It's not inkjet, so inkjet bleeds more easily, but as I've shown you already, if you use a palette knife or a scraping card, you can, like a store card, you can add your gel medium, just a quick layer to it, and if you work quickly and it dries quickly, there's not a lot of wet water going in there, so it kind of curbs the bleeding. And if you dry it immediately with your heat tool, then you're kind of setting it. Another option is what artists use to set things like pastels, which is a powdery medium, is to use a fixative or a clear spray paint. but I don't really like that much, because you need a ventilated space when you work with spray paint. It gives off a nasty smell, which you're not supposed to. It's toxic. You're not supposed to breathe it in anyway. So you need a face mask. It's a whole schlep to do that. So you always need to be mindful of your health when you work with different products. But I know that artists use fixative spray that would also curb a bleed, I would say. But I think the gel medium does the job, and if you just work quickly, you can do it. So with this, obviously, I can also have that issue of a bleed, but it's dried for a while now. So if I do, if I stick it down, I can do it with a clear glue stick, but I would probably just use the gel medium and just scrape a little bit quickly over the top and dry it, and it would look like a stamp on my page transferred there anyway. All right. I just have to check my video so often just to make sure my SIM card is empty, or my memory card on my phone. I did take off everything, but I just have to check it. I don't want the video to just switch off and I talk away. Okay, the other option is to just go on clear white paper or cardstock and use it that way, the same technique that I just suggested. And I have printed off on vellum. You can see I started to fussy cut and I got lazy, and I thought, why do I need to do that? Is it really necessary? I can just cut a circle, stick it down. I'm going to layer things over it. I just want the suggestion of the sunflower, so I don't know if I'll bother trimming that off. But the others I did go ahead and I did trim it. You can just leave it like this. The cutting line on this is faint there in the background, so you can use it to trim off, or you can just use it like this. Alright, so I've got a couple of elements here. I don't know which ones I'm going to use yet, but I do have flowers and leaves and things in color and things in black and white, like a stamp. I've used this girl now in a Bible journaling spread already, so I don't want to use her today. Sorry, my voice is kind of scratchy today. Okay, so I'm just going to put that, I think I'm going to use this girl in the art spread, and I'm going to put that aside. I want to talk about the canvas. So the prompt for today's project is definitely canvas. So I have Psalm 80 verse 19. I'm going to check that out. The prayer says, thank you, Jesus, for making your purpose grow in me. So the word grow would be my word here. This would be the color palette. And I felt like I wanted to leave the color palette out for today. I'm going to feel my way through. I'm not going to bind myself with a specific color. So it depends on a specific day. If you don't know which colors to choose, then select the prompt and go for those colors. You remember what I said, that you can also take your color wheel and then decide on color palettes. You can save some design seeds from Pinterest, pre-selected color palettes with images, and print it off and use those as your prompts to guide you. It comes with an image, a picture that can also guide you through what art you want to make, and you can use the color palette. You can even snip that up and use it in your artwork, and that can guide you. And there are different ways of deciding on the color scheme for your project. So I would definitely suggest that you go onto Pinterest and save loads of those different color palettes. You can just put in the words color palette and see what you get. All right, or Design Seeds. Design Seeds is a specific company, and they put together those graphic images with different color palettes, and it's beautiful, and I think it's a nice resource to have on hand, and you can print them out. Okay, so we've got the song Details by Sarah Reeves, and that song is, for me, the theme song for the whole Revive retreat. So I think it's the first one on the playlist on YouTube that I selected for you guys, and I want you to go listen to this beautiful song. In the background, there's an artist actually painting the singer who's singing the song, painting her face, so you can see the process. So it's kind of a class, or following through a process of art making while listening to this song. And it's all about the details, God putting in the details. He decides about the details of your life and your body and your face and your personality and everything. And I feel like it's kind of resonating with the whole theme of the Revive Retreat, and you being unique, your thumbprint being unique, and God was thinking out all the little details that makes you be you. Right, then the next one is abstract. So we're going to try and work a little bit abstract, not necessarily specific artworks and things. I'll share with you a little bit later on what my ideas are. So I have loads of ideas bouncing about in my head already. And then canvas, but I don't want to use canvas board today because I want this to go in my art journal, in my Creative Girl journal. And so I bought this a while ago. It's canvas pad. So it is canvas, but it is a sheet of canvas. So you can add this easily to your art journal. Okay, so I'm just going to fetch a sheet for us today. So you can just rip it out. It's the first one. So you can see it's actually material, right? So there's fibers in there, and I'm going to leave those fibers. I like it a little bit distressed. Right, we just need one, so I'm going to put my canvas pad away. Okay, so we've got our canvas, and then we need a toothbrush, which I'm going to grab in a minute, and pens, which I always use in my artwork anyway. Plastic packaging, I have loads here, so I have a variety. I've got the Hug in a Mug. My hubby bought me the other day a vanilla cappuccino. Perhaps I'll use that, I don't know. But you can use it different ways. The inside is kind of like a foil type of thing, but you can feel it's plastic on the outside. This is plastic. It's a veggie bag and makes for nice, adding nice texture. You can play around with that. And there's another version of this. It's just very fine and softer kind of fabric. So I can just stretch it out if I wanted to. But it kind of has a bounce to it. So elastic type of, but it's definitely plastic. All right. So I can put it around something or just stick it down. All right. And it can make textures, nice textures in paint. Then we have a plastic bag. And we can use this, we can snip it up, we can scrunch it and make patterns in the paper with it. We can stick it down if we want to, add paint to that. And then obviously our firm favorite for mixed media and art making and making marks on your art is bubble wrap. And we can add the bubble wrap to the canvas with gel medium, and we can use the bubbles. These bubbles are kind of already lost their luster, so probably I would just use it to stick down on my canvas sheet. Right, so we've got plastic and plastic and plastic. And so if plastic packaging is your prompt, so it can be anything, right? So I showed you there. It can also be this bag, but I'm not going to use the bag. So I have chipboard as well that I was thinking would be nice to add. Perhaps some of the letters could be nice, just random lettering. And these frames that are left over like this, your chipboard normally comes attached like this so that you don't lose all your little pieces, but then you're left over with a little frame like this, and you can either put artwork inside it and frame it, or you can layer these and it can form a nice abstract little project. So you can see that would already, or in different angles, add dimension to your canvas. And I have these little sticks as well, and I was thinking of maybe using them, perhaps. So they left over from a party we had. Okay, so these are kind of papery material, wood pieces. That's a chipboard. No, it's paper, so it's just a layered paper anyway. Chipboard is just layers of paper. Okay, so we still have our paper elements here, and I was thinking of using the blessings in bloom, because blooming and flourishing all shows us that something is growing, right? Okay. And then we also have other things. So I have empty toilet roll that can make marks in paint, but I can also snip it up and use in different ways, so it kind of fits with the chipboard. Then I have this little bag. I'm not going to throw everything out, I'm just going to show you what I have. Things that you can collect, that every little piece of plastic that you use in your art or in your studio as a tool, or you give it an alternative use, is one piece of plastic less on a landfill. And I feel like if we as artists can do this for nature and for the sake of God's creation, and we can make a difference. Okay, so we can make loads of art with this. So this, I would say, can be a little container. You can put a piece of cardstock at the bottom, you can cover it with something. It can be a little container for small tools or little bits and bobs on your desk. You can use it for that. You can use it for mark making. Right, so I'm just thinking about what I can do with it. If you go for a 3D project, you can add this. If it's an abstract artwork, it can be a stabilizer for like doll making. Maybe you make a little paper doll or something. This can be the foundation to it, and you build on this on top. So if you have kids, this can be a nice idea. You can drill a hole in here, put a toothpick or a little chopstick like this in there, and then you can build a little doll around this and brighten your children's imaginations up with what you come up with. So that's an idea. Right, then this was inside a face cream container. I think it's good stuff, something products with it's good for you. There's no parabens in it, so I buy that, and I like to save the plastic. There's nice pattern in here, so maybe I can use it for mark making. You can use this for a nice tool to make circles in your artwork. Also coffee cups, they can add big circles. You can stick this down for dimension and build different things on your canvas. I would just not do it on a sheet of canvas, but on a firm framed canvas if you want to do 3D art like that. Jar lids can also add dimension to that type of artwork. Little empty containers like this as well, you can snip it up and add dimension with this. So I'm just showing you random things that I've collected, things that your husband would probably use in his studio where he does woodwork or something. You can use screws and bolts and nuts and things. I don't have a lot of that because my hubby is not interested. He's a book nerd. I really don't know where this came from. So you may find miscellaneous items in your house, things of broken appliances and so on. Take it apart. I know I used an old printer once and turned it into a light table for tracing artwork, and I just emptied the inside, used the glass lid, added a bulb from the side where all the different open areas were. I added a bulb there, a light bulb, and so I had my own little cheap light table. Right, so things like these you can stick down, paint over them, and it adds dimension to your artwork. This also comes from a hair color kit and makes nice patterns in paint. Old broken jewelry can also add nice dimension in a project. And obviously bottle caps like these can be added, can be used to make circles, different shapes, whatever you have there. I keep these little guys. This can become a paper clip of some sort. You can add a little flower there. So there are a lot of things here that I can use. Old CDs that is out of use, and you can add that and build flowers around it. Just a nice mixed media thing. You can add a round photo on this for a scrapbook project or a mixed media scrapbook project. So I've collected these things over a while. This is a napkin ring that you can add, and I can suggest you just have a little bag and pop your odds and ends in it, or a box somewhere in your kitchen cupboard or your pantry. And all the little things that you would throw out, that just look at it from an artist's perspective and say, what can I do with this? Can it be a hat? Can it be a doorknob? What can it be? What is the new life that you can give to it? Just putting that to the side for now. What I also have for us today is I have different kinds of tissue paper that you get either in gifts or in chocolate boxes. You can keep that, you can add that. Dried out baby wipes, baking paper, napkins, colorful napkins. I found the sunflower from a birthday gone by, and I think I will use it in the background. Old tea box. So any of these items I would suggest you collect and you keep them. You can also use used wet wipes, in terms of used in your studio, not used on baby's bottom, please. That would be just yucky. So throw those out. Right, but these are from painting. You can see the color in them and some glue stuck to it. So if you trim off, you can make flowers with these, and you can add texture. Just crumple it up and add texture to layout of some sort. All right, so that's just an idea. Even tin foil, you can use pieces of tin foil. It can add nice, if you scrumple it up, also texture. Remember I showed you, you can use eggshells, you can use tea leaves and things like that. So this is all the things that I have here. So I like a variety, as you can see, but if it overwhelms you and you just want that one thing, then just have the plastic and leave everything else so that you don't get overwhelmed. You don't need so many things to create one spread with. So you can just select one or two things and work with that. So I just have a variety for your sake. Something else that I can suggest is you sometimes get in packaging sponges like these. You can chop them up. You can use them to make an indent in your art because it has a little nice texture there. You can use them for cleaning or spreading paint. I used to use high density sponges for my material painting when I painted, when I did material painting classes. We did tablecloths and aprons and things like that, and made bags and different things that you can make from material. You can just paint it, put your artwork on it, and I love that process. And so I use the high density sponges, but you can also use these sponges for that. You can use it in your studio for cleaning, so don't throw it out. Right, you can also use the little sponges from medical bottles and your vitamin containers. They normally have a little sponge like this. I have a whole bag full. It's nice to add texture, paint, and things to your artworks quickly. And if you're done with it, you can throw it out because you're not sorry about it. But I would suggest you use these as much as give them use as much as you can instead of just throwing them out. They're very useful for cleaning and adding art product to a project. Just a quick way of doing it, and it's not an expensive product. You get it for free anyway. You've already paid for it, so you might as well use it. Okay, and these bags you can also reuse. You can add your gelatos on this. You can add texture. You can add ink to this and lift it and add to your, like with acetate, you can also do that. So your packaging can go a long way. I just bought a punch this week, and I have packaging from the punch, and that acetate will either go in an art project, it can become a page in my journal, I can stick it in somewhere and work on top of it. I can use it as a paint palette and give it some use before I have to throw it out. All right, so I'm going to stop the video here for a minute, and then we'll go into the next couple of things that I want to show you. Right, I have a couple of new prints that I want to show you and talk about the jelly print. You might have already had experience with this, but perhaps you're totally new to it, so I'll just mention it. I have shot a video, a beginner's guide to jelly printing, because this is the first time I'm using mine. I made a bigger one a couple of months ago, and I definitely didn't have any time to play with it. It was homemade. I didn't buy it because I wanted to see if I could make one myself, and I watched a couple of videos to see which recipe would be the best and the healthiest for me to try out at home. And remember, the whole process of gel printing or making this gel print press is that you're actually going to be a scientist here. You're going to have to take gelatin, which is an organic product. You can actually eat it, right? You make jelly with it. And you take glycerin, which is a petroleum type product. I think it's petroleum, but it turns what is organic into plastic. So if you add the gelatin to your glycerin, the glycerin turns the gelatin into plastic. And there are different kind of recipes. One person says you need to add alcohol or something, and it gives off a smell. The whole idea is that you don't want this thing to, you can actually just do the gelatin, but it will go bad because it will get moldy. So adding the glycerin to it, there's a ratio to it. I'm not going to mention that now because I don't want to talk about and encourage you to necessarily make your own. But you can. So you can go watch videos on this if you're interested in the DIY of making it. I haven't used my larger one. I love the feel of it. It's nice and thick. I'm going to play around with this one. I store it once again in my cutting mats. So you buy these cutting mats at your local excitement store, or at your local excitement store for 29 Rand. You get 2 large A3 sheets, and I just trim them, and I'm storing it in here so it keeps it nice and flat, it won't crack. And then I had some offcuts from this one, and so it was lying around. So for months it was in a container, and when I opened it, it kind of gave off a plastic odor. So I would suggest storing it not in something closed, but like this, between 2 sheets of plastic, sturdy plastic, so that it can breathe. And obviously your studio needs ventilation. Mine has a little whirlybird just above me, so there's constant ventilation in my studio, and so build up of toxic gases and things due to the art product that I have is just better for me that way, to know that there's air that can, all those gases can escape, because it's obvious that art product will give off, depending on how toxic of a product it is, it will give off some kind of gas or smell. Alright, so especially if it's not natural. Okay, so I played around with it. My video will, my beginner's guide to gel printing will come out. I was just wanting to show you my results, and I'm going to play with some of my prints in my art journal spread today, because it helps to create that quick background. Okay, and you can see it's stained and it's yummy, and not all of the paint is off. I'm not bothered with that. And I would suggest that this can just help you get over your perfectionism when it comes to art making. And it's a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to show you my prints. I used different things. I used some objects that I collected, like I just showed you, in my print making. And I used different types of paper. So I used just plain cardstock, not a heavy duty one, just plain one. I used glossy paper that I had offcuts from our printing company who sends us our prints, and so I have those in a pretty pocket size, and I trimmed off. I'll put out so you can see. Some of it will be, and this is something you can know, that with the gel printing, especially when you're starting off, some of the prints would just be, well, you won't like it, but just keep on layering on top of it. That's the general rule of thumb that everybody tends to suggest. So some of the prints will be like this. This was a negative from stencil, so I used my stencils. So this process is really fun. You will find that when you start you will keep on doing this for hours. And some of it, so that was the stencil, and then this was the negative of the stencil. And so you get different types of images depending on how you use the effect or your technique. Some would be good, some would be less good, some would be great. And you make a lot, and these can be great for creating backgrounds on your art journal or in your art journal. All right, and especially just, you don't need fancy paper, just normal copy paper. I used that as well. So I trimmed off a couple of sheets in, and I just started, because my gel print that I used was narrow and small, so I just started using it and just kept on building on the layers onto that. Look at this one. This is really nice. So that was successful, I would say. This one perhaps less so, but I can build on it. This one was great. I like the leftover. So your first print would be a lots of color. The second one a little less. They call it ghost print. Your ghost print is your it's not your first print, so the second and the third. And I would say depending on how many or how much paint you put on your gel print would determine how many prints you would be able to get off of that. So the more paint, more prints, less paint, perhaps just one print. This one I liked. I added inks to it as well to play around with my all-purpose ink. Definitely the stenciling makes for a lot of fun. Some of it was successful, as I say, some less so. I like the metallic paints, adds nice dimension. This was a ghost print. This was, I think, the second print with gold in there. So I really like this. Perhaps I'll use it in today's artwork, so I'm going to put it aside. And then this was just hearts in the background, but the first try I put the hearts too close together, and that's how you learn. So I wouldn't suggest that you put your shapes too close unless it's like this, so it's just barely touching. You get a nice pattern going. I like this one a lot. I think it could make, especially if you add the metallic paints, can make for a nice background on a card. There's another one and another one, so I'm going to put that aside perhaps to use in today's artwork. And so you can see a lot of experimenting and learning as I went about, and I'm total novice at gel print making. There's another piece of that. This was some of the first ones, negatives. This I really liked. You can see this was really beautiful. So I've got 4 cards that I can get out of those. Really nice. The difference between these two would be that there was still paint from the previous try and it gives you texture. This one was just 2 colors, new colors, and so it's kind of flat. So I like this one more. So leaving some of your paint there, this was a flop, I believe, but I can layer on top of that, and you can just continue and play until you get things that you really like. So for me, this was just a beginner's try, and I feel it was a successful one. Like the red, perhaps using it there. I like this a lot with the circles in there. And you can now start to think of ideas of adding different shapes and patterns and things. Perhaps the hearts, I'll use that. And this one, I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, the red came out really nice. I'm just selecting things here to use. So you could pre-make some patterns and do printmaking, or just use your stencils on backgrounds. I use silhouettes, can be nice to make prints with. So perhaps I'll use some of these. Here's a purple try. This one was one of my favorites. Came out really nice. So I'm just putting aside. I tried a Celebrate stencil as well with the gears. This came out nice. I can see this on a layout of some sort. Right, so I'm not going to use all of it in today's artwork, but perhaps some of it. This came out. This was a heart stencil, and I really loved that. This was the same stencil, but what was left on the gel print, and I loved this more than the stencil print anyway. So there's a lot of texture and color in there. Perhaps I'll use some of that today. And even just the bits and bobs that stays left over and you just pick it up, it can also already be a start to any artwork. More flowers, and then I started playing around with dots and things. So there's a little rainbow color in the background with a stencil on top and gold paint on the sides, and I really like the dots. It came out really nice. So I played around with that a little bit, just added paint. And this was my paint palette, and I'm not throwing this out because I can trim or punch out shapes from this and even use my paint palette that I was playing with and to pick up paint to put on my gel press. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you, that all of these experiments you can use in your art making, card making, scrapbook layouts, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to start randomly with my gel medium, and I've selected some of my prints to add to the canvas. So I'm not going to be too bothered about being perfect with all of this. It's just an experiment, so it doesn't have to be a perfect artwork. So I'm just adding the gel medium quickly, just a layer, and then I'll add the paper and test that out. So just wanting to add it. Okay, add a layer of the gel medium. It will crinkle because it's copy paper, that's fine. Adding texture. Okay, so just work quickly. You want the bubbles out, press hard. Not too hot though, so that your paper, depends on how thick your paper is. I don't want this necessarily to be two-dimensional. It's more about the artwork on top. So oh, she's ripping it in half. Ah. Not a problem. So it's just adding the dimension here already. So dimension can mean more than one thing. It doesn't mean it's just layers in 3D. Dimension can also be in the patterns that you add to your page. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. I hope you can see everything on camera. I just want to check this. Sometimes I sit, sometimes I stand. Today I was on my feet a lot, so my feet need to rest. So I want to sit down, but I can't really see the phone. Hold the phone, hold the phone. Alright, so this is just bubbling a little bit, but it's okay because I want that texture to my canvas. And I was thinking on adding this to the top. So if you use your jelly print plate, your gel printing plate, then you could just add your papers to your canvas, your mixed media canvas. I just want to add more gel medium here. It's just the end of the day, so my brain is tired and I'm just working as fast as I can. I don't want this class to be too long. Just want to give you girls ideas and get you going. And if you can do this better than what you see me doing, that's fine. If you get ideas from this, that's not normally how you learn. So this is an experiment or experimental phase of checking if you can add paper to a canvas and what does that look like. And so you can play around with your textures, and that's a glossy paper there. And it's reacting well, not picking up any color there, as you can see. So just adding it. Right, so we already have some interest in the back of that canvas, which I really like. And I have different patterns here as well, so you can add other other textures by just adding a different print to your background, right? So already there we have all of this, and it feels already like an artwork because there's already a layer of nice patterns in the background and you didn't really work that hard. So another way of kickstarting your creativity is to play around with a gel press, create some interesting prints, use household items to make marks in your paint, lift that up with paper, see what you can do with that, and enjoy the process of making art and adding interest to your canvas or to your art journal page. I'm really enjoying this. I like what I see. There's a lot of depth in my artwork already, and I am really happy with that. So that's why I said I didn't want to bother with color, because the color will come in with this, and you can rip off the white page edges. Just don't want to rip it too much. And I'm working, as you can see, really rough. Don't try and bother too much about perfection. And this is already coming along nicely, and you're layering and you're adding texture. Don't worry about that bending over, folding over, just leave it. Just adding stuff you're going to layer on top of it anyway. And even if your gel medium is adhered a little bit stripy, that's fine. There's a little bit color coming into my gel medium there, so this probably has some pigment on it that's coming off, but that's okay. Right, I think I want to add this to the top there. So you can do this with just normal scrapbook paper as well. Just grab your scrapbook paper and add your textures using your scrapbook patterns to your art journal, to the back of your, or the back layer of your art journal spread. Just for quick dimension and color, just use paper. I don't want to use too much of that, but I want that scallop there. So I'm just going to make it smaller. Just want to fill up that corner. I think I can cut away what's going over the edge, so I wanted just that piece there, random piece. Okay. And if it lifts, just lift it a little bit and just add some gel medium and go over it again. Remember, this is an experiment, doesn't have to be perfect. What I also have is my serviette, my sunflower serviette, and I was thinking of just adding some of it because we are busy with sunflowers. Perhaps just a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much. And what you have here is a double layer, and I already took off the back layer. Don't know if I'm just going to add it in here a little bit, perhaps. Don't want to cover my like that. Just perhaps 2 bits of it. I don't want to lose the gold texture there. Just a little suggestion of a sunflower perhaps, because after all that is what we are working with here. This corner is kind of a little blur still, so let's try and add some tissue paper there. It's basically tissue paper, right? So we've got our sunflower suggestion, popping yellow coming out, and I'm not going to add any more. Perhaps just at the bottom corner here, just a little bit. Then it's balanced. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And what I'm going to do off camera is just drying that layer. Okay, so I added my vellum stamp, And it was quite tricky because I just want to mention, keep track of this, because I'm using a textured canvas. It's kind of wonky, and I added papers to it that can add to that. So if you then put the vellum on top, you will have a wobbly surface. So I just smoothed out as much as I could the face. So it's just the same process with the gel medium, but remember that it can be a problem because you have those layers in the background, and the vellum, because it's quite soft, tends to crumple up a little bit. So if you would add that to a plain art journal surface, it will probably lay flat. So you need to also work quickly. Make sure you add not too much so that you have bubbles underneath. So a smooth layer of gel medium, and add your vellum quickly from the top, smooth it out to the bottom, and expect it to crumple a little bit. Dry it a little, and then smooth out as you go along with your fingers the places that you want it to be smooth. So it's not a perfect solution for adding a stamped image to your canvas, but it's fine for art journaling and for the process of just experimenting with things. Right, so I'm also wanting to add a little texture with my stencils, and I've got a couple of ideas that I want to play with. So I'm just going to add this heart here, probably covering some of things in the background, which is okay. Right, you can also just do it on one end, just add little textures using your stencil, picking it up and so on. But this one I wanted the full heart, and I have something else that I want to do with it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that for a minute. I'm going to add more texture with other stencils, but then I'm going to use my embossing powder, and I have a little bin, a little plastic container with a brush, but I'm not going to use the brush now, obviously, because it's wet medium, but normally I just put the powder in there that's left over. So I'm going to just pour this on top of my stencil, and I'm sticking to white. Oopsie, came out in a bundle there, clumping a little bit. Okay, so now this is just where you need to be really careful not getting powder all over yourself and everything. So let's hope I can do that. Just have your container handy and just carefully, slowly tap it. Okay, so you've got leftover powder that you can use again. Okay, and I'm not going to heat tool it with the stencil. I don't want to emboss my stencil. So then I'm going to take this off and wash the stencil in my bin. So just be careful when you lift it. Alright, so some of it bleeded a little bit, but that's okay. Alright, so just putting that aside. And then I'm going to emboss it with my heat tool. Don't want to talk over the noise. When it bubbles, you know that it's working. Normally when it glazes over, it melts. So it's a question of you melting it now, but you're melting it into the texture paste. And so the bubbling effect is normal. You can also work from the bottom to ensure that you're drying the texture paste as well at the same time. Don't go too close, and don't keep your heat tool still, because you can burn your artwork. So here we go. I'll probably cut out this part, but then we'll see you when it's done. Okay, so I have added in the background some more texture with my floral Ivytree Studio stencil. It's the same stencil that I used in the gel printing, so it's repeating that pattern. And I'm just building now a little interest with chipboard letters that It's kind of, you don't know what to do with the leftovers, you can't make a word, but you can use it as a pattern and create a pattern and interest on your canvas. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'll be shutting down my video in a minute, and then I have to download it. So I'm going to work in the background a little bit and just adding with the gel medium, just royally adding like a glue, nice and thick, so that it kind of sticks to your canvas well. So I'll be finishing that off camera, and I have punched out a couple of flowers from the Revive collection that I intend to use here and there. And from my tea box I also punched out these flowers. I sprayed them with a little water, used my embossing tool, which is this one, just to shape it a little bit on a craft sheet or fun foam sheet, and because it gives it a little bit of a bounce, and so that's what you need to shape your flower with. And so it's not about, the lesson is not about shaping flowers or making flowers, it's just about creating texture and background, making an art journal page, using all of those elements to do this. I'm going to color in the face a little bit with my Americana paint, and then I'm going to work with gelatos and water. So I'm going to download my video so that I have more space, and then I'll finish off the rest on camera for you. Just before I'm going to download my video for this class, and so that I have more space, just wanted to show you what I did. So I wanted to add a little weird element to it, and I wouldn't recommend you do this a lot. Melting plastic is not a good idea because it gives off a gas, obviously, but I made rolled flowers, so just large or long strips of plastic that I rolled up like you would do with a rolled rose, paper rose, or any rolled flower, and then I just added a brad to the middle with my piercing tool, using my piercing tool. I sprayed it with my sprays, my mixed media ink sprays. I don't know if it's going to hold the ink because it's plastic, but then I heated it with my heat tool just a little bit on the edges so that it kind of curls up. So I've got this version here, and I'm going to add gold to the center there. And the same with this one. I actually like this one a lot. Okay, and another one there. Okay, so don't melt it a lot. Then I added just sprays to my tea box flowers. So it's kind of, they're very like shiny because the paper on the one side was shiny, the box on the other end I just left plain because you're not going to see that. I punched out some flowers. I used the background, I sprayed it with K-Craft ink glimmer mist that I watered down a little bit, and I just dragged it through what was left on the plastic. So I used the leftover plastic as a spraying mat, as a spraying mat, and so there's a use for the plastic here as well as a spraying mat, and I'm just going to fold it over and put it to the side, and I don't have a lot of mess and things that can mess up my artwork that I don't want. You can even chuck that if you want, maybe later add that to another project. There's a nice pattern there. So I'm going to dry it like this and see what I end up with later on. Maybe I can use it again. I also made these little rolled flower. The idea is to suggest a little flower with twine with my string, and I'm going to add gold and white to that so that it has dimension. I made 2 of these, so I'm adding it to that plastic flower just to add different textures. You don't have to do that. I was just in the mood for being creative and testing things out. What can I use for adding a little bit weird to my canvas? And I also adhered bubble wrap, just small pieces because the canvas is already very busy. I'm going to color it with white gesso together with a chipboard, and then we'll color it a little bit with gelatos. I'm going to color in the face and add my final touches with my flowers on top, and probably not put it in my art journal, probably put it on a frame or something and add it to my wall in my studio just for inspiration, and just a play, and I want to look at this later on when it's done. So next up would be just gessoing and then coloring that face. Some of that elements I'm going to use or leave. My goodness, I'm having so much fun behind the scenes. I can't even tell you how excited I am. So I've made lots of flowers, just scrumpled up these and layered the blue with the sunflower petals that I... Look at that cute flower. Just give it a scrunch a little bit so that it's distressed. Added a little bit of a Nouveau drop to the center and you've got a flower. The other one, I distressed, remember I just distressed it, sorry, with the inks, sprays, and added some splats, ink splats, dark ink splats up front, so it gives you a very nice wonky flower. And it's that same punch. I just used my scissors, which I never use, so it gives my tools a use, and I snipped the edges off just to give it a different look. So it's the same flower, just 2 layers there. You can do 3, 4, 5 layers, and these, you know that I just sprayed them. It's the tea box, so that looks nice. Okay, and what I also did, so I've got 3 types of flowers there, and I have these plastic flowers, and look at this. If you add this little veggie bag to it, don't know if you can see that, really cute. It gives it a flower feel, and you can even add more. You can add paper to it if you want to. All right, so playing around with my flowers, and I need to color in my canvas. It's wonky, I like it that way, it's fine. I hope that the chipboard stays. Like Marta Lipovska, which is a great inspiration to me, says, this is not going to hang in a museum. This is for the sake of experimenting, learning about your product, what it can do. That's the focus of all of this. I also stamped my vellum images. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's a shine to it. It looks silver on screen, but it's actually my gold pigment ink pad, which I've had for like more than a decade, and I've never re-inked it or anything, so because it's pigment, it just lasts and lasts and lasts. Right, so cut up veggie bags, which are plastic, so saving the environment there. I used my plastic packaging to make little flowers. I added a little bit of bubble wrap here and there, which I'm going to paint now with canvas primer or gesso, and I still need to do the face. So we're going to play around with all of these elements. Whatever doesn't land on this artwork can be put into a little bag or a container, and you can use it again for the next process. You should see my hands, my goodness, but it's not too bad. I can still feel my fingers. All right, so I love the layering of these letters here, because, or alphas, it just adds a nice touch to the canvas without it being too much. It has that kind of a feel like you want to say something, but you're not really saying something. So okay, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to see if I can use the canvas primer and prime a little bit here and there. So I'm going to use my gel medium brush. I didn't wash it properly last, so it's kind of messed up, but it's okay. We're going to see if we can use it anyway, because it's plastic bristles. I just feel it out a little bit. It's just for the gesso anyway, or for the gel medium. And the thing is, I'm just going to work roughly here and there just to give it some white color, because when we're going to ink it later on and color it in. This is a process that if you watch Marta's videos, she's kind of very efficient with this by now already, and I just love the process, and I've been experimenting with it a bit, and I love the layering effect. So you can learn a lot from other artists, and I think that's important. It's like collaborating with people and sharing ideas. Alright, so it's not necessarily covering everything with white, but touching up so that the paint sticks to whatever you have there. Here's the bubble wrap. The moment that you add white to it, it shows up a little bit better on the project. You can see there's a texture. Can you see it? There we go. There is the texture. So coloring the bubble wrap, otherwise it would just disappear on the project. You won't know it's there. Okay, so that will definitely move around a little bit, and it's okay. Just use the primer to stick it down and add. There's a piece of paper here that some of my flower snips got on here, and there's another bit here off camera that you can't see. My desk is full of product, and that's what happens. I start out very organized, and then as I go along, product everywhere, things are layered. I look for my scissors, can't find them, and they're underneath a pile of paper or something. But that's the process, and it's fun. I'm not too bothered. I'll clean up afterwards. Sometimes if I'm tired and I've done this for a long time, I need to do the video editing and things, I'll just leave the table, clean up the things that need to be cleaned up, and leave the rest for the next morning, and then I'll fix it then before I start. But I have to start with a clean slate, otherwise it just confuses my brain. Okay, not everybody has got the same routine also, so when I talk about mine, it's unique to me, but yours may be different, and that's fine. It doesn't mean because I'm doing a class you have to follow everything I say. You need to think for yourself, use ideas. That's what creativity is about. It's about collaborating, not following like a slave what I'm trying to bring across to you. You take the things that work for you and you work that into your artwork, things that excite you and bring you joy. I read a joke on Facebook the other day about I don't know if you know about the KonMari method. She's a Japanese lady, and she's got this method of organizing your home, and she says that which doesn't spark joy you should get rid of. And this person was saying, well, if I have to get rid of everything that doesn't spark joy in my house, I'll end up with all my furniture on the sidewalk, and I'll only have my cup of coffee and my cat or something left. So not everything in life will spark joy. Not everything will bring you joy. Sometimes it's about learning about something, and that learning can bring joy in the end. You can say, well, this artwork wasn't a big success, but I learned so much from it, from the process. And I don't want to lose my texture, my sunflowers that I've put in the background. I don't want to lose a lot from this girl. I just want to add some white here and there to where I want to add skin tone to her, but also not too much, just a little bit. Probably leave some of that texture in the face. Okay, so I'm going to play with that. I think I have colored this enough. It looks good to me. Okay, I've just been painting my plastic flowers a little bit with the canvas primer before I put it away, and so it's giving it a little bit of a different look already, and without putting too much of it inside. I should have taken it out, but anyway, that was my mistake. So that's how I learn. There's a lot of ink there, so don't put that inside. Let me just take that out so I can rectify the matter. We don't want pink ink in our white canvas primer, so just put it there. and then I can work from here. Okay, then it doesn't matter. Right, so because the ink is on the plastic, it will come off, but it's okay because the primer will now lock it in there. And I don't cover everything, but I want to give it that flower feel, and it has to dry now naturally, otherwise with the heat tool it will shrink even further, and we don't want that. So I like the fact that it looks more like a little flower now. Alright, and we're still not done. I'm going to add something to the center probably. We'll see what we're going to do. Probably a little bit of gold. Okay, right, so there we go. And I still have this sentiment here, the chipboard, blessings in bloom, and I want to use the word bloom and flourish, and I was thinking of perhaps just coloring in this a little bit, so I'll do that off camera. I'm just going to roughly prime that a little bit. Okay, so see you a bit later. Okay, I'm starting to do the painting of the face, and I just did the neck area, and then I cleaned off my brush. I went over the butterfly a little bit, and that's what's great of the gel medium is you can, if you have textures there, you can take away some of the paint if you want. You just need to work quickly, and you can blend it a little bit more, and if you want to have texture there, but remember I did prime it a little bit, so they won't be in this area a lot, but over the butterfly I didn't add anything, so you can clear that paint off, and that's what's great about the gel medium. Alright, I didn't prime the face a lot, so I can do that there, and just add texture, or add color, sorry. So my color palette is just to the right of me. There you can see it just barely, so it's just on my glass surface, and just going to play with the face, and I'm working quickly. Bothered about being perfect here. And if you want to blend a little bit, you can take paint off and just dab it in the water. So now you can wash it a little bit because of the gel medium, and you'll see your texture stay in place there. So you don't necessarily want to lose all of that. Darker just to add shadow under the chin, the nose a little bit, into the forehead there, under the hairline. You can line the face later on, so don't worry if you lose some of the lines. Just Okay, I'm cleaning off my brush again. I'm just holding it in my hand because then I'm closer to it and you can also see it. Just giving it a wash. A little bit. Washing away some of the paint, picking it up. Okay, so you want a little bit of that, and then the eyes will make it pop, and the lining afterwards will also hopefully make that pop. Alright, I think that's about it. I'm going to add in the whites of the eye, because that we definitely want to add. And don't worry if you go over the line a little bit, because you're going to line it with your pen. Remember, one of our prompts were paints, and I will go in with color and with the black and with light spots later on. So I'm just adding the white because that's the bottom layer. You can layer on top. Alright, and I think I want to just color in the lips a little. It's not going to be white, so I'm just call it priming it, because we want that to stand out. We'll color in the eyebrows, just adding a little white there so I can remember to color that in. I have finer tip brushes, so I am actually able to go in a little bit more perfect, but this is just for our journaling sake, so it's just a rough coloring in. Alright, so the rest we're going to do with gelatos, and we need a water spray just to let the water drip a little bit, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I've been playing around with gelatos. I first started to put it on my glass sheet here, and then I decided no, the color, if I want to pick it up from there, it's going to be I'm too impatient, it's not going to work. And so I just took my gelatos and I added it to the canvas, and then I sprayed it, but it didn't really do anything for me. So what I did was I picked up the water, cleaned it off a little bit, and I used my wet wipes. You can see they're colored. I tried a wet one and I tried dry. The dry works better. The wet ones needs to be damp but not wet. So the wet wipes I dry out. Sometimes I dry it out. And using that, if there's already some wetness in your background, that would work. So it's a lot of color in here. So I was just blending a little bit. So I used different colors. I used this trying to see if the color is on there, butterscotch. So this is the butterscotch. It comes out in the sunflower a little bit, so I added it here and there, and I used the buttercream, so butterscotch and buttercream, I used that. And I also used the pink watermelon, which is one of my favorites. I used a little bit of the purple raspberry, and I used the green margarita mix. I like the name. Used a little bit of the green there. I want to still add more color to the sunflower here. I added the brown in here with the This is chocolate. Added it here for the hair, just suggesting the hair. I'm not done with all the bits and pieces. I don't want it to have a chalky finish, so I'm just blending a little bit, going into my chipboard here, being careful not to move it too much. Just blending, just change the wet wipe, otherwise you'll blend different colors into each other. Just change it a little bit there. Picking it up, blending it in, and it's just something that you need to experiment with over time and see if that works for you. So I would say that I'm happy with the gelatos, but I'm not happy with the coloring yet, and I feel like it can still pop a little bit more. Alright, so I'm going to use my watercolors and see what I can do with my watercolors. So I'll be back. I just want to prepare them. And just before I switch off the video, to the left of me I have all my flowers drying and all the flower centers using the Nouveau drop, so they can dry while I'm busy with my background. I prepped the Blessings in Bloom. I'm just going to add a little bit of glossy accents or a clear Nouveau drops to it, just to give a dimension. And I still have to use my toothbrush in some way, so probably going to do some ink splats and so on. So I'm just preparing my watercolors and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I started adding a little orange watercolor, and I feel like I have more control over the watercolor than the gelatos. That doesn't mean gelatos is bad for this process. It's just depends on your personal preference probably. I added yellow there and brown. I added the bright orange here and there. So I'll be playing around with coloring. I want to add more blue to her dress area and all of the bubbles here. So I'm going to play with the blue, and I'm definitely going to add darker colors also here and there. So that would be her dress, and I don't want too much of the blue going into this heart area here. I'm planning something for that, so I'm just focusing on adding the blue, but I also want to just give touches here and there. Alright, so that we can spread the blue around. I haven't done blue up top, and perhaps a little bit, just a touch here, and we can spread a little, see where it goes. Right, just move it around where you want it. Okay, don't want too much. So the thing is, you can control where you want your color and how much you want, and pick it up where you don't want it to go, and then you dry it. Okay, so there's some progress. I was just spraying the heart here. I added the blue, which I felt like was the color that I wanted, to the heart area, not to her dress. Her dress is more a turquoisey teal color, but I wanted this blue because there is a little bit of this blue color in the collections papers, so I love that, and I don't want to lose too much of that, but I want to go in darker, so I'm using the darker color. And because I embossed this, it has a different texture. It gives off a fine grainy spotty texture, different from just a normal textured paste that I've used here and there. So we're going to add a little bit of that blue in here at the top. Just want a little bit of it to the side, not necessarily covering everything. Alright, and you can pick up with your wet wipes. Alright, so depending on what texture you want there, spray your water. You don't want to lose everything. And you can add in darker colors if you want. I'm going to see if this is going to touch. Okay, a little bit of the darker there. And this is just a playing around until you're happy with what you see. Okay, and I don't want to lose my gelatos, and I don't want to go everything blue, so I'm going to dry that color. Look at that. Okay, I think I'm finished with the coloring. I think you can go on forever and ever and ever. It's not perfect, but it was a really lovely experience coloring everything in and playing with the watercolors on top of the gelatos. Everything will react with water, so the canvas takes the water. It's really wet, so it takes the water really great. It's not crumbling or anything like paper would have done. So you can do this on canvas and stick it down in your art journal. And I was just using some Americana paint, acrylic paint, and adding little fine splashes of the toothbrush here. I'm just showing you. I hope you can see on camera. Just adding that. It looks like a galaxy. Fine spritzes, and in the centers of the sunflowers just a little bit, and just here and there on the darker spots. And that's it. And then what I was thinking of doing, I just want to clean off screen before everything dries. Okay, I need to show you this part. I'm working with my Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen, sorry. And the thing with this is it's India ink, and it blends really well. And so you can line your artwork using this. This is the brown. It's dark sepia 175 if you want to know, and it's a great you can see the dimension to the face already just by using this and lining things out, and you don't have to go with a full line. It gives it that feeling of just finishing things off. And you can go into, because it's got a sharp point, you can go into lines there and like that, and just line things a little bit. You can leave the line if you want, or you can blend it. I like blending it. Husband just made me a cup of tea, and I got strawberries for a snack, so I'm a happy girl. Right, I like the face, I like the dimension already there, and then just going to go into the eyebrows a little bit here, darker here, and then I'll blend it out. So I hope that helps you to understand what we do here. Then I also have a black one, so if you want to add the centers of the eye, so I color in with the watercolor, and then I go in with the black, adding the iris there, and I'll end off with white on top just to add some light. Okay, and I need a fine point brush just to use it there to line a little bit, little shading getting in there, taking from this. And because there's I forgot to mention that I just did a layer of gel medium so that I can work with the face now and don't lose my back layers and coloring that I have in there. Now this is not perfect because the vellum is just a little bit lifting a little bit or bubbling up in the background. So if you just have a normal stamp that you, or your own artwork there, then you won't have that texture there. But I kind of feel like because I'm getting older, that kind of signifies my skin getting a little bit more crinkly and we're aging, we're not as young, that's okay. Right, so if you want that young skin, then just make sure that you adhere the vellum as flat as possible, but it will crinkle because if it will react to the water, but that's fine, I'm not too bothered. Okay, I'm going to add in a bit more ink. I don't want too much of a dark line there or a thick line, so I normally use my thin pen, but because this has a fine tip, you can go darker here and then you can blend it out, soften it a little bit. You have a couple of seconds before it dries to just go in there. Okay, and I can take my brown because you probably don't want too much of a black there, and touch up with the brown a little bit, and then you can take that up into the eyelid. We don't want it to be too pink. You can add more brown. Nope, that was the black. Careful. So the water brush pens work well with this technique. You can just press and the water will come out. Okay. Can you see the face is looking totally different than before? And you can add little nostrils here and a hint for the nose. Is not bringing the water as I want it. And if you want to change something, go there, just brush a little bit harder. Sometimes I feel like the water brush pens doesn't give me what my normal brushes would. A little bit more control there, pressing harder. So the angle there changed a little bit. There we go, now it's starting to look like a nose. Definitely into the mouth, a little bit darker here, just checking if you can still see what I'm doing. Okay. My lighting is a little bit shiny, so I can't see where I want to put my line. I really want it the smiley. Not too much though. Right, we need some more light in the eyes. We'll get down to that a little bit, and I feel like I can see my girl's face, and that's actually all I want. I don't want a lot of other things in the artwork. It's really busy, it's colorful, it's dimensional, it has everything that I like, and I want to add the finishing touches. So I'm going to play around a little bit and take a breather and just think about this final stage, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I am having so much fun. The flowers, the plastic flowers, just, oh, it's so yummy. It's just really working. The idea is just such a success for me. I have just used a little bit of the gel medium, kind of royally, to layer the textured vegetable bag with a little vellum flower that I stamped with the gold. Remember, just off center so that you can actually see it. So I used a little purple one here, a black and white lined one here, and a blue one, just picking up the blue that's in here as well. And I layered these close together, and I'm just adding these guys. It was the twine that I colored. The idea is for it to be a little rosy, a little rolled rosy, instead of paper rose, a twine or a string that I used, and it came out really great. I used a little bit of the white primer on the bottom. I didn't color the whole thing, so there's some of the twine's natural color coming through. There's the inks there, and the gold, Vegas gold ink on top, and I'm loving the texture. So I don't know if you can see what I see on camera. It is just a little extra there, and I think I'm going to give it a little center in the middle once it's dry there. And the flowers are so yummy, textured and yummy, and it's just plastic bag, so you can make your own flowers, rolled flowers. They're not two dimensional, you can push them flat. And I still have these little guys, hoping that they dry. They're nearly dry, I think. I'm not going to press the center, so there we go. And I'm just adhering the rosy with a nice dollop of gel medium. And I have to decide where to put it, so I want it to be seen. Pushing it into that. And at this point you can use your piercing tool just for placement to help you push down on something if you want to, but I think that would stick. Alright, I need to play around with my flowers and see where I'm going to add them. And this is my fun, the embellishing phase. I love this. I love creating the textures, but normally you can't see what it's going to be until the last. Put in too much there. I don't want that much, just want it to, there we go. It does dry clear, so it's not too much of a issue. And I think one up top. Don't know if I'll use all the flowers. I'm feeling my way through this. There we go. It's already perfect. I can just leave it and it will be fine. Oh, my hands are a mess, but it's okay. That's mixed media. Okay, and I just want to push my little flowers a little bit. So I've got paper flowers, plastic flowers, and twine flowers. That's mixed media. So I've been mixing a lot of mediums. These are, I feel like, the accent pieces, these little sunflowers, so I want them here. Yep, that's where this one is going to go. Oopsie. Sticky fingers. Oh, I am in love. Love, love, love it. Very busy, but it's okay. It's fun. Okay. This is something that you can do. It depends on if you want it to go in your art journal, then it will just go flat. But if you want it to be a little bit dimensional, I don't know if I want this flower here in the corner or up top. That, I think that would be better there. I forgot how much fun gel medium is. Don't push down in the middle, push down on the bottom layer so that you don't mess up your little center there. And then you can use your piercing tool just to go in, make sure it sticks. The canvas is lifting up, the flower is adhering. And you can still move it around a little bit. There we go. Go flat. Just push it in there. Yep, I think that's what's going on there. It feels like there's a little space up top. Perhaps. Don't know, not sure yet. I've got 3 of these flowers. I don't know where I'll put the third one. I don't want to lose this blue flower. Could go in there, but I don't want to lose that texture. So you just move it about to see where you're going to go with it. I think it's going to fit over here a little bit. Let me see. It gives a nice texture there. So this is a very florally thing. I've been thinking about this for a while. So the ideas develop over time. It doesn't necessarily happen when you sit down and create this. Oh yes, definitely. The flowers, 3 flowers there. One here. I hope that you're going to like this class. I would love your feedback. I really enjoyed this. And you can go as textured as you want, as layered as you want. There goes a flower. It's just a piece of vellum. It's been sticking to everything. I better put it aside. I have a couple of leaves that I probably would tuck in somewhere. Don't think I have enough gel medium there on this one. Just if you put enough, then don't have to overdo it, but then it sticks quicker. See? This one. Just especially if your background is very textured. I love it, I love it, I love it. Very excited. Very, very excited. Don't even know if I want to put this one somewhere. Don't necessarily need to use all of them. This one's center is messed up, so I think I'm going to use this one instead. It's a bit wonky. I don't know if you can see, but I did add a little bit of the white paint, some dots just with my paintbrush here and there, just for interest. The white, I always feel like the white does something, adds something. I like the flower here. My goodness, it's picking up all the yellows around it and the little bit of blue there, and it brings in what I like about it. I didn't add a lot of green in the background. It's just basically in her hair with the foliage there. So these leaves are adding that balance of bringing a little bit of green. I'll bring it up in closer. Can you see? So it's just adding that little bit of green to balance things out. And I love this. I love it, love it, love it, love it. So I have a music note. I don't know if I'm going to add that. I have a little badge here, a flare button. I don't know if I'm going to add that to it. Don't know if it's just too much. Perhaps tuck it in here. It does pick up all the colors, but I only have the one. Methinks it works there, but I don't know if I want to add it. So sometimes something works and sometimes it doesn't. Don't know if the music note would work. Nope, it's not working. Not working for me, and I want to add my sentiment. I did prep it, so it's a light shade of pink. It's not really white. I'm just cutting it loose from the frame. Here we go. Blessings in Bloom. So you have the lettering there. I'm just going to play around, but I think it's going to go somewhere here. I wanted to add this flourish, but I think that's going to be probably too much, perhaps. So the bloom refers to the growth. Nope. Perhaps up top somewhere. You won't be able to see it there. So just playing around. It doesn't have to go on. If it's too much, it would have fit in here, but I feel it's now too long. It's not fitting in. What I can do is I can snip it loose and change it a little bit, but I don't know if I want to do that. And perhaps I'll do this and add it to the very bottom. So I have to play around with that, but you could leave out the sentiments. I can add the flourish word. Let me see if that's going to work. That kind of pops a little bit better with the black. I love this. It has really developed nicely, and I can frame it if I want to. It's very 3D. I didn't intend for it to be 3D. It ended up being that way, but I love it. I hope you do too. Love the process. I just want to close my lid here before my gel medium dries totally. I'm going to think about my blossom, blessings in blossom, if I'm going to add it, how I'm going to add it, perhaps just the bloom with the flower and the flourish and take the blessings part off. I'm thinking of doing that. I feel like the flourish is working here, and I want to add perhaps a little bit of gold. I always end up using a little bit of my Vegas gold somewhere, but I feel like there's a lot of texture, there's a lot of things already in here. I think I'm going to add a little center here to these little rolled rosies. I have pearls that I can add, so I'm thinking of adding the pearls. I think that would just a white pearl on each. and that would finish off my artwork. I can add lots of other things still, but I don't know if I want to. Something else that I can add, maybe these little glass jewelry beads, flat beads, or water drops. They can be water drops. It looks like water drops. So I think perhaps those would go on here nicely, and it feels like my garden has been well watered, and perhaps I will add those to my project at the end. I think perhaps that's what I'm going to do instead of anything else. They're lightweight, they're small enough to go on, and they pop. So perhaps I'll add those beads, and that's the project. So I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you got a lot of ideas. I haven't done mixed media in a couple of years, and so I'm getting back into my groove. I really loved making the flowers. I had a vision. I didn't know if it's going to work. I feel like you don't know that that's plastic just from looking at it. The fact that some of the plastic is coming through, it gives it a little bit of a shiny, like there's water droplets on it. And then the white colors it in nicely with the colors of the inks that I used. With these little vegetable bags, gives it that mixed media feel, with the vellum in the back just shining through. It's not overpowering. I didn't end off using those leaves. I don't know if I'll pop them in there. I only have 2 available, so but I think that's just too much. I feel like what I have here is enough. That's normally I think the process. So I don't want you to second guess yourself. I don't want you to feel that if you make a decision, it's the wrong one. There's a lot that I could have left out of here probably. I could have left the flowers totally. You can do that. I can leave off these glass beads. I don't have to adhere them. It depends on what you feel like God is leading you to do in your artwork. I really love the face. What I still need to do is just use my final stage. It's just the pen work and adding my signature somewhere. And I probably will add the signature in gold and not in black pen. Remember to sign your artwork always. I hope that you enjoy this process and this class, and that you try some of the techniques that I used. Remember, if we talk about techniques, my goodness, it's just how you use art product. It's not this great big science. It can be very sciencey, but for the sake of therapy and developing your art and testing things out, I would say that just go for it and just experiment. This is your experiment phase. I would definitely be adding this probably to a canvas board or something, or a wooden frame, and add it to my artwork in my studio, or put it up on my vision board or somewhere. I really love how this came along. I didn't expect this end result. I'm going to faff with it a little bit more, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next class.